Good morning. Welcome to the Peer Learning for Leaders webinar. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go and get started. So this is already May 13th, and we know the RFP is due May 15th. A lot of the things that we're going to talk about, I'm quite sure that you guys have already started or in the middle of, or maybe hopefully just about finished. There are several documents. One was the actual RFP, which was a 49-page document. And then there was also at your disposal an addendum to that RFP, which was a 40-page document. The RFP itself gave a table of contents that talked about your organizational background, your program description, program requirements, your proposal submission guidance for applicants, performance measures, contract management and data reporting requirements, terms of the contract and the sources of funding, eligible respondents, evaluation process, a selection criteria, a procurement system, an e-procurement system that helps you to understand better what you were getting involved in terms of with the city. It also talked a little bit about legal and submittal requirements. So there were City of Chicago economic disclosure statements, litigation and economic issues, grant agreement obligations, funding authority, insurance requirements for your program, and so much more information. So that document, of course, was extremely powerful and necessary for you to be able to develop a powerful and clear RFP. The addendum to that RFP was broken into sections, and the addendum basically answered questions that RFP developers were not sure about and were trying to not interpret what the RFP stated, but was asking for clarity. So that second document offered clarity to the proposal, and it gave additional information. I think there were about 26 questions that were answered in that particular document. So again, this is Peer Learning for Leaders for single and multi-sites. My name is Lavetta Terry, and I am a consultant working with Illinois Action for Children. The other day, someone said to me, "What is WIIFM?" And I asked them back, "What is WIIFM?" And the person said, "Yes." And I said, "I have no idea what that is." And they said that it means, "What's in it for me? What's in it for me?" So the wonderful thing about this RFP, it allows for an opportunity for people that are currently delegates to continue to be delegates, people that are currently delegates to not only continue to be delegates, but to expand their program options if they choose to, and even the ages of children that they serve. And it allows agencies or organizations or private partners that are not currently delegates the opportunity to become a delegate. And the RFP is the vehicle or the tool that we're using to get to that end goal. Look at this slide. It's a slide with a lot of question marks in different colors. Throughout this webinar, you're going to generate your questions, and then we will respond with guidance from the City of Chicago, the Children's Services Division. In previous webinars, people ask a lot of great questions. All questions are good questions because it offers clarity and about what you're trying to understand better. So throughout the webinar, feel free to respond to ask questions, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. You might want to take a minute now to, if you have some questions already based on the work you've already done and the proposals you already read, generate your questions now. The great thing about your questions is that probably other people have the same questions that you have. And that ties into our peer learning. We learn from each other. Request for proposals, RFP, Chicago Early Learning Community-based programs. Let's talk a little bit about some opening statements in terms of this webinar. We're talking to single and multi-site programs. Some things that it is so important for us to consider and be aware of when writing and developing an RFP is making sure that you fully understand what the RFP is asking, which begs the question again about making sure you ask all questions when you're not clear. It's better to ask a question and get clarity rather than not, and assume that you know what they're saying in the RFP, but you misinterpret it. It's already May 13th, as you all well know, and the proposal is due May 15th at 12 o'clock. So there's little time left. So important that you read the requirements in the RFP and determine how you will dissect each of the elements and who will be part of the process. Hopefully at this point you've already decided that. You've already identified the people that are working with you to develop the proposal, the people that are working with you to develop the answers. Think about who are the content experts. Those are the people that know your program and know the content and can drill down in terms of all the pieces that make your program a successful program. Who are the writers? Who are the people that are actually putting together the answers to the RFP? That's important to figure that out. It's also important to make sure that everyone who is helping with your proposal to pull it together is given a timeline of when you want the information back to you. There should be a key person who's gathering all the data that all the information goes to. In the process of writing, it's so important to make sure that you have people that are reading the proposals, to make sure whatever you're trying to communicate to the reader of the proposals is clear. Sometimes we are so knowledgeable about what we do, and we're so used to doing what we do that you can't see the forest for the trees. With this, it's important that the people that are going to read your proposal fully understand all the pieces of your program, all the aspects, all the content, everything about your systems, and you should have different systems so that when they read your proposal, they know exactly what you're trying to accomplish for the children and families of the city of Chicago. Communication, communication, communication is so crucial in anything that we do, but especially in this proposal. It's so important that the people that are involved directly with the development of the proposal, as well as other key players and all of your staff and within your organization or your center, are aware. There's often a lot of rumors that float around when things like this occur. RFPs don't happen that often in the city of Chicago, and when they do, many people will give their interpretation of what's going to happen. And sometimes there's some kind of anxiety or nervousness surrounding it, and people aren't sure, we're going to continue to have a program or we're not. So the key for you is to make sure that all of the people involved in your organization and or your agency are aware of what you're doing, aware of how you're making some tweaks to the proposal, which means you're making tweaks to your program to address certain issues, are aware of if you're proposing current programming for the children you currently serve, and or if you're expanding your program. In some cases, you might even be adding another center altogether. So everyone who's connected with your organization needs to be aware of that important information. With any project, sometimes people get stuck and they're not clear. And when that occurs, of course, as a leader, it's your job to make sure that they get unstuck, so to speak. Back to that communication, that you should have your tentacles out, if you were an octopus, making sure that you have your pulse on everyone and everything that's happening, so that you're their support person, so that you're the key communicator, so that everyone understands what they need to do to move to the next steps. Proposal writing is not the time to operate in a silo. You want to make sure that you're clear and detailed in your writing. Consider the technical piece. It's my understanding that the proposal is to be uploaded to the City of Chicago. You want to make sure that you have a backup in case your IT piece is not operating that day. And you know, sometimes when you need our computers and the internet and everything to work perfectly, that might be the time when there's a glitch. So make sure that you have thought about all of that, and that and even having a plan B probably would be a great idea. I recommended in the previous webinars that people don't wait till the 15th. Ideally, it would be wonderful if everybody's proposal was ready today. And if not today, tomorrow. Today's the 13th, tomorrow's the 14th. When you set a timeline that's earlier than the expected timeline, which is the 15th of May, that leaves you room if there's any kind of glitches or problems. And that leaves you room to be able to breathe and not panic. Good proposals also lead to better working relationships. As you're developing this proposal and as you're communicating, you're going to have a stronger sense of what really happens in your organization. And not only you, but the people who work with you. You'll get a better sense of each person's role. And as a leader, you'll be able to see if there's any holes in your systems that need to be plugged up. I also recommend with proposals because even though you all are doing wonderful work with the children and families of the City of Chicago, nothing is perfect. No one is perfect and no program is perfect. So there's always going to be a few things that we can improve and get better. And that just shows good leadership. Good leaders are able to identify when there's problems and not only identify it, but work with the team to figure out how do we problem solve. Good leaders don't walk away. In your proposal, I would suggest to identify if there's any internal issues. Not only identify internal issues, but also identify and document your plan to tackle and how you will resolve those issues. Remember, no program is perfect. And I think a good leader is going to be able to identify the things that they're working on, the challenges that they've come across, and how they're planning, if they have not already, to address them. Don't ignore when there's a glitch or a problem or an obstacle. Good leaders tackle them and problem solve. This image just makes me smile. It reminds me of why we do the work that we do. This is a well-organized, quality child development classroom. You have a teacher who's engaged. You have beautiful children that are engaged and working and learning. And this is the work that they do. Their work is play. And through play, they are learning. You even have a little boy off to the side, and he's looking, and he's trying to make a decision. Am I going to enter into that play? What am I going to do? He might be new to the classroom. We're not sure. But clearly you can see this is a classroom that has good classroom management. It has wonderful equipment as you look around the slide. Everything is in good repair. So this slide alone could be a training. Because we know with Head Start, Early Head Start, child care partnerships, all of it, there is many policies and procedures that are required. There's guidelines. How many children you can have in a classroom based on the ages. What type of equipment is necessary based on the age of the children. What's okay and acceptable in a classroom and what is not. What is the square footage in each classroom? All of that is important. So there's so much going on in this slide. And I just love this slide. Again, it reminds us of the good work that we do. In your RFP, you need to also, as you already know, document how you're going to make sure to communicate to the reader that you're operating quality child development programs. City of Chicago is committed to high-quality early learning through a citywide system of school and community-based programs known as Chicago Early Learning, or SEL. The city has engaged in two major policy shifts to facilitate access and to improve the quality of early learning services in the city of Chicago. These shifts are pivotal to strong city systems. So the RFP that people are working on now in the Chicago Early Learning didn't just come about. It's been a long couple of year process with the city of Chicago, with the goal of mind to make sure that all of our children are kindergarten ready. This slide shows a map of the city of Chicago and the community areas and the size. So you have different color coordination here, or color coded, sorry about that. And each section of the city of Chicago, it has a number attached to it. You have the far north side, you have northwest side, north side, west side, central, south side, southwest side, far southwest side, and far southeast side. Take a moment and see where you fall on this map. Where is your organization? Where are the centers that you oversee? Where are the children and families that you provide service to? Where are you on this map? It's my understanding that the city of Chicago has some type of tool that agencies can plug in their zip codes of the areas they provide service and get all kinds of demographic, geographic information about that particular community. This is so crucial to your development of your RFP. The readers are going to want to know, where are you within your area? What type of children are you serving? They're going to want to know information on the families. It's important that they know that you're connected with that community. Think about your program and your services, and including your RFP, other programs and services that are in a community as well. Some of us have been working in certain communities for so many years, and in our minds, we think we know that community like the back of our hand. And that might be the case. But in some cases, there's been many changes within your community. There might be new stores that have popped up, new houses that have been built, different organizations that have provided services there that you might not know about, or you may know about them, but want to have a stronger partnership relationship with them. I strongly suggest that you walk around and you see how your community has changed. Strongly suggest that you know the boundaries of the area that you serve, and that you ride around and you cover those boundaries and you get a sense what's out there. It's good to take someone with you. 4 eyes are better than 2. Someone can be riding and someone can be noticing and documenting what you see, any changes. This is an important part of your RFP. The reader's going to want to know how long you've been there, what type of services you're providing, how are you making an impact in that community? What would happen if your agency wasn't there? How important is your agency to that community? How needed your agency and the work that you all and your staff do is crucial to the children and the families. Let's take a moment and you can jot down some additional questions that may pop in your head. The Department of Family and Support Services, Children's Services Division, administers funding to all community-based Chicago early learning programs. The Department of Family and Support Services, CSD, seeks to ensure that these programs offer comprehensive and high-quality services for all enrolled children and their families. CSD efforts to build this strong system of services is guided by the following three priorities. 1. Maximize access to high-quality early learning programs by matching investments to the needs of the local communities and reducing the barriers to entry for children and families. 2. Improve the comprehensiveness and quality of early learning across all programs to ensure that children and families' needs are met. And 3. Create a strong system of service providers by increasing support and reducing the administrative burden for community-based programs of early learning. What are the goals of this RFP? The goal of this RFP is for Chicago children to be ready to succeed in kindergarten, and it is the most immediate outcome we have for children who have participated in Chicago early learning programs. We are looking forward to their success. The goals of this RFP: to enhance and expand highly effective services to vulnerable families with children from ages birth to 5. For Chicago early learning, community-based programs to provide early learning experiences that support children's development based on their individual trajectory across 4 developmental domains: social emotional, physical, language, and cognitive, with the goal of supporting their success in school and in life. Based on the desired outcome for Chicago's children to be on track and ready for kindergarten, this proposal aims to achieve high-quality learning environment and experiences in those 4 areas I just mentioned, to engage and support families, providing them with meaningful ways to interact with their children's learning and development and attain their own personal goals, provide programs with the foundation and supports necessary for strong program design, management, and monitoring systems that contribute to sustained quality programming, and employ a professionally prepared and adequately compensated workforce to achieve the desired outcomes for children and their families. In essence, the City of Chicago is so committed to making sure that our organizations and agencies have high-quality learning environments for our children that focuses on the 4 developmental domains: social, emotional, physical, language, and cognitive. We also want to engage and support families. Parents are the child's first teacher, and we need to help them to understand the importance of their child's education. And in the process, helping the families to achieve some of their own personal goals they have as parents. We want to make sure that, or the city wants to make sure that the agencies have a designed a management and monitoring systems that contribute to sustained quality programming. There are sometimes in some agencies staff turnover, but if you have strong management systems and monitoring systems, it's easy for a new person to come in and to learn that system. The city doesn't want any pieces of your organization to work in a silo looking out. They want everybody to understand the importance of one content area connecting with the other. They also want to be able to have a professionally prepared, meaning educated, and adequately compensated, meaning salary, workforce, so that people are committed to doing the good work that we do for children and families. Funding streams. Chicago early learning programs are built on two funding streams: Federal Head Start and State Early Childhood Block Grant, along with their associated requirements. So with Federal Head Start programs, it includes Head Start for 3 to 5-year-olds. It includes Early Head Start for children birth to 3-year-olds and pregnant women. And thirdly, it includes Early Head Start / Child Care Partnership programs, which are for children birth to 3-year-olds. Early Childhood Block Grant includes 1, Preschool for All, which some refer to as PFA. This is for 3 to 5-year-olds. And 2, Prevention Initiative, some refer to it as PI, which is for birth to 3-year-olds and pregnant women. The city recognized the value of the opportunity to blend federal and state funding in center-based programs, and this blending will support implementation of quality components and help programs serve families with the greatest need, all the while reducing the eligibility barrier of relying on state child care funding. I like this slide. Slide has a lot of messages here. You see money surrounded by a heart. And inside, the text reads, "The only wealth in this world is children." The only wealth in this world is children. So while we need funding, which is why you're preparing the RFP, so the money represents the funding that's required, but the heart of it is our children. We want to make sure that our children get the very best and our families get the very best because they deserve the very best. The only wealth in this world is children. Investing in our children is powerful and necessary for any country, and definitely in the city of Chicago. Program types and service delivery models. So we have 4 types in the city of Chicago. There are center-based care, charter schools / private schools, family child care homes, home-based / home visiting. So those are the 4 different program types. Let's talk a little bit about each one. Early childhood education and care in the center-based programs is offered in an Illinois state licensed facility with separate classrooms or areas for distinct age groups birth through 5. Services are comprehensive that are offered, including family engagement, health, and nutrition. These service delivery occurs at the centers, which is why we call it center-based care. So again, the facilities have to be licensed. They have to have separate classrooms based on the distinct age group. They cover children from birth to age 5. In most cases, the centers will take children as young as 6 weeks. In your child care licensing policies, you have all the specifics of the number of square footage that's required for infant, toddlers, and twos versus 3 to 5-year-olds. The next program type is charter schools/private schools. Early childhood education is offered in an Illinois license exempt facility with separate classrooms or areas for distinct preschool groups, so very similar to center-based. Services are comprehensive. It includes family engagement, health, and nutrition. The service, though, delivery of this program option is offered at the schools. Family child care homes. Early childhood education and care offered in an Illinois licensed home for children birth to 5, with services that are comprehensive, including family engagement, health, and nutrition. So here the differential is that it's offered in the home. The home is a licensed home. DFSS supports family child care homes through networks established with Head Start or Early Head Start delegate agencies. The individual family child care homes should seek becoming a part of the network that meets the specific community needs. It's really helpful to be a part of a group that's doing the same type of program or service delivery models that you're doing. And the Department of Family Support Services will help you with that. And that also ties back into our peer learning. Our fourth program type or delivery model is home-based home visiting. It's early childhood development programs, working with parents to support them in understanding child development and their role as a parent, using one of Department of Family Support Services approved evidence-based models for implementation. There's different approved parent curriculums that is suggested to be used for the home-based home visiting delivery model. In addition, these type of programs work with parents to facilitate parents' ability to set and achieve goals for themselves and focus on their own development, in addition to the development of their child. Comprehensive services are offered. The service delivery is mostly in the parent's home, except for the times for socialization and parent meetings. Let's take a minute and you can type in your questions. Age served and program models. The Chicago Early Learning Programs may be provided through a variety of options that we just talked about, which includes center-based care, licensed family child care homes, which serves Head Start and Early Head Start funding only, and home-based home visiting programs. For this RFP, applicants must submit separate applications for Category A, which is birth to 3-year-olds, and Category B, 3 and 4-year-old. No more than one proposal should be submitted for each category. Agencies are not required to apply for both Category A and B for consideration. So you can do Category A or Category B or both, but one proposal should be submitted for each category. Let's talk a little bit more about ages served and program models. We talked about that the CELS, Chicago Early Learning Programs, may be provided through a variety of options that include center-based, licensed family child care homes, Head Start, Early Head Start funding, and home-based home visiting. We talked about two different categories. Category A, birth to 3-year-olds. It's different programs. You can have Prevention Initiative, which is PI. You can have center-based, or you can have home-based home visiting. So the funding is Prevention Initiative, and that's either Early Head Start funding or Early Head Start / Child Care Partnership funding. You can have center-based or home-based. So categories A is from birth to 3. It could be Preventive Initiative, center-based, or home-based. The funding is Early Head Start. The service delivery model is center-based or home-based. And you have the option of family child care homes. Preventive Initiative can also be Early Head Start Child Care Partnership, center-based, or family child care homes. Category B is for 3 to 4-year-olds. The funding is Preschool for All or Head Start. The service delivery model is center-based, charter schools, and private schools for PFA. So PFA, Preschool for All, has center-based or charter schools / private schools. We're still in Category B, 3 and 4-year-olds. The Head Start is the funding source. The delivery service model is center-based, charter schools / private schools, home-based, home visiting, or family child care homes. Take a minute and generate your questions because that was a lot covered in terms of age served and program models. Take a look at this slide. Not that I'm a fan of Bruce Lee, but I thought his quote was very interesting. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. We all know what we know in terms of the work with children and families in the city of Chicago. We all know the role we play in the organizations that we work within. We all know a lot, but it's so important that we're not only knowing, but that we're doing. So for this RFP, think about where are you in the process of completion. This is such a worthy cause. Give it the time and attention that it deserves. You have all the information in your head, and if it's not in your head, it's in one of your coworkers' heads. You work with people that love the work that they do, and they're good at it. Pull together people so that you can get out of them the pieces of the puzzle. How do you guys accomplish what you do every single day? That information needs to be committed to paper and documented in the responses to your RFP. Willing is not enough. We must do. Everybody wants to continue with the current funding that they have, and in some cases to get increased funding for expansion. So we all would like that. But what are we doing to make sure that we achieve that? Where are you in the RFP process? I'm going to ask you now to put in the box, type in, where are you in the RFP process? Give us a percentage. You 40% completed? Are you 60% completed? 80% completed? Where are you in the process? Performance measures. We spoke a little bit earlier about performance measures. You want to design and implement learning environments, and we saw the image of the quality child development classroom. You want to design and implement learning environments and practices that support children's development across 4 developmental domains that have been identified as key to children's kindergarten readiness: social emotional, physical, language, and cognitive. This is the part of RFP where you want to pull in your teachers, your education coordinator, your education manager, people that are focused on the assessment of the children, and the people that are developing the lesson plans, the people that can speak to each of these domain areas. There are performance measures within your agencies, and I know those are some of the things that the city looks at. The agencies must have an average composite score of 4.5 across class, ECHRS, FCCRS, and ITERS assessment, with no single classroom falling below a score of 4. If those words or that language is not familiar to you, make sure you talk to someone in your agency that deals with the education content of your organization. Site leaders participate in site-based instructional coaching model sessions. Site leaders participated in site-based instructional coaching demonstrate implementation of coaching indicators outlined by the instructional support service providers. You basically want to make sure the leadership in your organization is being reflective, and that not only are they growing and learning, but they're able to coach and support others. In the home visitor program, you want to design and implement programs that support families and provide them meaningful ways to interact with their children's learning and development and promotes homeschool connection. It's so important that the children see the adults around them working well together and supporting the child's success. Children are smart and they pay attention and they watch everything. They even watch the interactions between their parents and the teachers. One performance measure in parent education curriculum has to be implemented with validity, such curriculum as Parents as Teachers or Baby Talk. At least 80% of all families who enter your program during the year are still enrolled at the end of the program year. What does that mean? Your proposal needs addressed, and the City of Chicago is looking at the families that started with you and how many of those families are still with you at the end of the program year. Another measure in center-based and family childcare homes is teaching strategies. Gold Parent Portal is utilized on a regular basis. They want to see how you're using the portal with your families. There's other performance measures in terms of the learning environment and parent and family engagement. An overall average score of 5.0 or higher on the program administration scale scores, which is the PAS, PAS. Parent and staff satisfaction surveys demonstrate 85% overall satisfaction and demonstrate growth in areas from previous year. What does this mean? That there has to be some methodology where you're asking the families, the parents, how do they think you're doing? And there's a list of questions that you would be asking them. The city also wants to see how you're doing this year with your program and parent and staff satisfaction compared to last year. So there's surveys that's given to parents and surveys that's given to staff. They're also measuring a program baseline information on a survey that assesses effective leaders, collaborative teachers, involved families, supportive environment, and ambitious instruction. Another measure is looking at improved or reduced staff turnover rate. In order to look at that measure, you have to be able to have some system in place where you're looking at how many people are working for you and how many people are working for you year after year after year. Those individuals who have, whether you decided to let them go or they decided to move on, what is the reasons for that? Looking at your percentage of staff turnover. That is so important because children need consistent adults in their life. And if you have a revolving door, that makes it really difficult for the children who have to continuously get adjusted to new relationships. It makes it difficult for even staff because working relationships is a process. So that measure is important. Time for action. It's May 13th, as I said earlier. The proposals are due May 15th at 12 o'clock. Whatever you haven't done thus far, hopefully this webinar and some of the slides and some of the things have sort of prompted you in a gentle way to consider some things that you haven't, or to give yourself a pat on the back because you've already done these things. Either way, it's time for action. What are your next steps? Running out of time. There's 5 steps here. Once this webinar is finished, identifying your next steps, being clear about what you've already accomplished and what still needs to be done to complete your wonderful RFP. Number 2, making steps clear to your team. We talked about the importance of communication, making sure that everybody in your organization is aware of where you are in the process, any changes that you made to RFP, anything that needs to occur within your actual classrooms and sites to mirror what you've reported in your RFP. We talked earlier about determining who is responsible for each piece of the process. Well-developed proposals are not done by just one person. It's important that all the players at your organization, all the people that are stakeholders, so to speak, that matter in your community and with your organization, with your families, your staff, and your board, everybody's a part of the process. Determine who that is and how would it look for each of them. What is the timeline? Think of your budget. There were webinars on budget development. So if you haven't listened to that, make sure you get a hold of that and listen to those webinars. But think of your budget and how it's related to your research and how you plan to operate your program. So for an example, if you're an organization and you currently don't serve 0 to 3 infants and toddlers, or you currently serve 0 to 3 infants and toddlers, but you want to add another classroom, that has budget implications. So you'd have to research to see how much would it cost for you to add an infant toddler classroom to which you already provide service for. Equipment costs. There has to be the right type of space, the right amount of square footage. All of that's related to your budget. How much you're going to pay your teachers. So if your budget says one thing, it has to match what you say in your program piece, and vice versa. Throughout this process, always think of qualifications. Qualifications is just a key word. Making sure that your board consists of everyone that is needed to run quality child development programs. Do you have someone on your board that has a background legally? Do you have someone on your board that has a background in terms of early childhood development? Do you have someone in your background that has a background in fiscal or financial experience? Are your staff qualified to be in the positions that they're in? What do you need to do to make sure that you're the best leader that you can be? Are your policies and systems qualified? Are they meeting the needs of the organization? Is everything matching what you said you're going to do? Let's take a minute and ask another question. You've been asking questions throughout the webinar, hopefully. If something comes to your mind after this webinar is completed, please feel free to email your questions to dorothy.turner@actionforchildren.org. All questions will be responded to in an FAQ format and answers shared with everyone who is on this webinar. We're encouraging you to register for future webinars. Maybe you've already listened to the webinar, but maybe there's someone in your organization that could benefit from listening to the webinar. So there's been 4 previous webinars to date, including the one we've just completed. The next one is scheduled for tomorrow, May 14th, from 11 to 12. We advise you to check your emails for future webinars and additional FAQs. We need your support. We're a community, so please take the time to complete the survey that you will receive once this webinar is actually finished. We know you are busy, and we appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for all that you do for the children and families in the city of Chicago. My name again is Lavetta Terry of Terry Consulting Group, a consultant for Illinois Action for Children. The one thing I like to say, and I love this line, we all care about children, and our actions show we care. We thank you so much for your participation, and we wish you much success with your RFP and continue with service, quality service with the children and families of the City of Chicago. Thank you.